welcome to Texas!
He's a 10.
I choose this family.
Hey guys, welcome to episode 16 of the 911 Lone Star Roundup. I'm one of your hosts, EJ, and with me are my lovely co-hosts, Katie.
Hello.
And Grace.
Hey guys.
Today we'll be talking about Season 2, Episode 5 of Lone Star, titled Difficult Conversations. Just a reminder, we won't be recapping the episodes. We will more so just be talking about what stood out to us. There's a lot to talk about, so let's get talking.
So we pick up where we left off last episode. Not quite, but the same storyline.
Pretty much.
With Gwen and Owen at the doctor's. And Owen is a wreck. Let me just say that.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. You'd think he'd never done it before.
Yeah.
Which, granted, last time he did it was like 26 years ago.
Yeah.
But
different situation, I suppose.
Completely different situations. Even though I low-key want to know if TK was planned, because that'd be even funnier if, like, TK was planned, and so he has absolutely nothing, no experience with, like, the unplanned baby area.
Yeah.
I don't know. I get the feeling everything they do is unplanned.
They're I don't think they planned on getting back together either, so that's another thing.
No.
Oh my gosh.
Which, and then, we've got the doctor who confirms that, yes, she is pregnant, and she, he said something like, get it in under the wire or something, because obviously she's...
So, right before.
Yeah, so she's right on the cusp of, menopause.
Yeah, and it's like, hearing that, we're like, okay, we got that cleared up, because, you think she's old enough to have it, have already had it, but apparently not. Or she's in the range.
Yeah.
And then there are a lot of risks.
Yeah.
And as the doctor says, not just for the baby.
Right.
And I feel like that's probably the kicker out of everything, is also the risk to Gwen.
Yeah.
Because that's baby ain't born yet. Baby is barely existent right now.
Yeah.
But they have to worry about Gwen, who has been existent for a very long time. So,
right.
I make her sound like 200 there, but you guys know what I mean.
Yeah.
Well, and this kind of plays into the whole difficult conversations, because we get, it's challenging, and, Owen's kind of asking, because he hadn't Googled yet she'd Googled the statistics of the situation, and many people at that age often choose to terminate the pregnancy, and Owen's like, is that what you're recommending? And the doctor's like, I'm not recommending anything. It's your decision, or, the couple's decision. And so I think that was it's just hard, because he doesn't know the statistics. He doesn't know all these, he has all these questions, and I don't know.
He feels the most out of the loop out of either of them.
Yeah, I guess that's it. I mean, what...
And they cannot freaking communicate.
Yeah, they are terrible at it.
Yeah.
No wonder they broke up to begin with.
Yeah. They have terrible communication skills. I'm just like, what are you doing here? What?
TK has come a long way, but we can see why he had the run
communication
skill instead of, talking it out.
Oh, yeah.
Man. I agree.
Man.
I don't know. Yeah, I'm not thrilled with the baby storyline. Not that I'm not against them getting together and having a child if the situation was different, but I just this isn't. Yeah, this whole storyline. I'm curious where they're going with it. I just don't want it to hurt TK in the process.
Yeah, I think I was so clear of how I felt about my feelings on it. I was like, I do not like this.
Yeah.
I'm not here for this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah, for me it's I don't mind the fact that there's a baby. I do not necessarily mind that.
Right.
What I mind is that they are so screwed up that how can they ever raise another child together?
Yeah.
Especially if any of that whole lack of communication skills, their relationship, was part of what screwed up TK.
Yeah.
And I really don't know how TK is going to react. I think it's a toss-up.
Don't know either.
Yeah.
It's I just don't see it ending well. Not unless they, actually, go to couples therapy or something. And, they need to sort themselves out, and they have 9 months to do it now.
Yeah. Like, might as well do couples counseling again. Like, you're gonna have a potential child now. Whether if we think it's going to become an actual, like, living, breathing child or not, like, you're going to have one.
Yeah.
I do not see it ending very well if there's a child. That's the thing. Like, I can't see them being better than they are right now.
Because the same thing's going to happen as that happened before. Something's going to happen. Owen's going to be focused on the firehouse, and she's going to want him home with the kid and her. And I'm like, we've been down this road before, and look what happened to TK because of it. Yeah. His parents got divorced. The kid's going to have to go through that, and then forced to make a decision as to who he's going to be closer with, or she. I don't know. Yeah, it's just this isn't the right. Unless Gwen gives him the ultimatum, your job or this family, which I don't.
Oh my gosh!
No, I don't. Yeah, I can't see it going that drastic. Like, I really don't. It's like usually I'm like trying to find the point of a situation being brought up, like, why is there a baby? Like, there has to be a very good reason, but there's definitely not a good reason.
I just saw something. If there's going to be an ultimatum, I don't think it's going to be the job or them. It's going to be Austin or New York.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yep.
Because if there becomes an ultimatum, I see that being the angle.
Me too.
Yeah.
And it's like,
I could see that.
Also, the other way it could end, which is in stillbirth or miscarriage, that'll tear Owen and Gwen apart too.
Yeah, I was thinking
they're not solid enough in each other to ever last through something like that, when even fairly solid couples get torn apart by it.
Yeah, I think very much so. There could possibly be, like, either a stillbirth or a miscarriage, and I think that ultimately she would just go back to New York, because there's, like, literally, like, that would tear them apart. They wouldn't be able to survive that. She would just leave.
Though I have many hunches on how it could go, I don't think I'm able to call which way it's going to go.
No, I'm not either. Not yet.
Yeah.
I was very thankful that, like, and we're going to get to this, but that they didn't terminate the pregnancy. Because I'm like, I don't see that being the path they do.
Yeah.
But that means that it has a few paths to go, and it's like, I have no idea, because Lone Star's on drugs.
Yeah. They wouldn't like end things that quickly or that easily. So, like, they want to drag this out. I think it'll be at least dragged out to episode 8.
Yeah.
I'm expecting some answers in episode 8, on where it's going to go. I'm not expecting anything sooner.
Yeah, because that's going to be, like, their winter finale.
Yeah.
So, like, that would only make sense for them.
Cliffhanger?
Yeah, they're gonna do like a cliffhanger. I know it.
Well,
I know it.
I don't know if it'd be a cliffhanger, but I definitely feel like 6, 7, and 8. The episodes 6, 7, and 8 will be, kind of the path of, TK finding out, deciding if they're gonna, what's the situation with the baby, and then maybe move into, like, a miscarriage or something, and then, like, episode 8's her decision as to whether or not she's staying or going.
Yeah.
And then, like, when the season comes back, she might not be there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, baby drama.
Yeah.
Baby mama and papa drama.
Much. Oh my god. Alright, so the locker room scene.
My favorite. I mean, one of my favorites.
Yeah, there are many favorite scenes in here, but all of them revolve around this trio or quartet with either Marjan or Carlos.
Yeah.
So
ooh, yes. Love this so much.
Paul. I love him.
Same. There's just so many lines. Stop. There's so many lines in this part that I just love so much.
Paul's complaining about aioli. I was like,
oh yeah.
I was like, so he's in the dating scene now, which is good to hear.
I want to see more of it rather than hear it, but I'm glad to know it's happening.
Well, with all the restrictions, I'd imagine he's mentioning it because they don't want to they can't cast a bunch of people right now. I don't know.
Yeah, probably.
Oh no, they have plenty of people on set just with emergencies, so they can bring in a freaking date.
That's true.
Yeah, I think that was funny, and then you just see Mateo in the background wrestling with Sadie. Paul says Kobe, is there a reason why you're losing a wrestling match to your sweatshirt right now?
I cackled.
Yeah,
Like, oh
same.
my gosh.
Yeah.
And Mateo's like, "Hey, you want to give me a hand?" I'm
TK's
"Oh,
like,
boy."
you sunburnt or something?
It's like, "No, I got a back tap. Dr. Z took me off for weightlifting."
TK's like, please tell me it's not Star Wars themed or Spider-Man. And he's like, first of all, if I was going to get a Marvel character, I would get Thor. And
Honestly, mood though.
yeah, and you should talk, dude. You're the one that has a beetle on your arm. He's like, it's not a beetle, it's a honeybee.
And I'm like, dude, how did you think that was a beetle? It's a bee.
It's yellow and black. How can you mix those colors together?
It's Mateo.
I'm just like, it looks so much like a bee. Now, if it was maybe the tat on Ronan's chest, there may be a few confusions there, but no. The bee tat is very clearly a bee tat.
And I love Paul's response. Did it sting?
Yeah, I was
my
like,
God.
oh, Paul, really?
And TK's like, did you know that honeybees pollinate a third of our food supply? I'm like, I know that Ronan put that in.
Yes, I knew that when I watched it.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I'm like, there's no way.
yeah, and then when he
didn't.
tweeted it, I was like, I knew it, I knew it, I knew it.
He told them, yeah.
Yeah, you do. Yes, Ronan. Yes, yes.
Go Ronan.
Yes, boy. And then Paul's like, man, that's not a back tat, that's a blade tat. That's on my back. And I love how they're just looking at it right now. They're not reading it.
Yeah,
And so they're like, it's actually pretty badass.
yeah.
And then Mateo says, I designed it myself.
Oh, Mateo, we should really suspect a few things about that.
And let's be honest, I did not like clue into what this meant until much later in the episode.
Same.
But then I was like, oh, but either way, I was like, okay, that doesn't look bad for a designed tat. Then I was like, oops.
Yeah.
Yeah, it did look pretty nice. Like,
Yeah, it was a gorgeous
yeah.
tattoo.
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
I was like, yeah, that's real. Like, that's great.
And then they're like redressing it, and they're like, they realize it says Guardian Angle instead of Guardian Angel.
Oh,
And that is when it's like, oops.
yeah.
Yeah.
In my head, I was like,
And there's words.
yeah, there's words. 2 of them.
Guardian Angel, because that's what we are. Dope, right? And TK's
It's dope.
like, dope.
Like,
And then Mateo gets all casually like, it's cool about the bees. I'll help spread the word. And then he like walks off.
And TK's like, so that's the angel.
Nope. Angle. It said Guardian Angle. My man has a typo permanently tattooed on his back. I love that line. And when
That is unfortunate.
And when TK said that, I'm like, oh, that's so me. I would totally say it. I'm like, that's unfortunate.
yeah, same.
Like their faces during the entirety, like when they first realize what it says.
Yeah.
Up to this point, I'm like, mood?
Yes.
Mood?
Mateo is a mood, and like,
Oh my gosh, yeah.
yeah, like the like when you see the angle part, I'm like, oh no, oh no,
Yeah.
oh no.
I actually had to go back and rewatch that particular section because I wasn't paying enough attention to the tattoo to realize what they were talking about. And so I went back and I was like, oh, that's why.
Yeah, well, it's not shown for super long. So, like, once you focus, like, I saw the 126 and I saw the logo or something.
the
And then
Guardian.
I saw Guardian, but it was like, you're reading so fast as, like, the screen goes
Yeah.
past.
Yeah.
Just, yeah, I had to go back and rewatch that
Yeah,
clip just to see. Like, okay, I get it now.
yeah,
Love this whole storyline throughout the episode, though.
Yeah,
totally.
I'm glad they addressed it, because, obviously they'll explain more later in the episode. And they didn't just, like, have it in season 1 and then never talk about it again.
yeah. Also, like,
Yeah.
I expected for what it was, I expected something way worse based on episode descriptions. I was like, wait, I expected.
Did he, like, get drunk and get a naked
Yes.
girl tatted on his back or
yeah.
something? That was kind of where I was going.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh dear, what'd you do?
You can,
Or something, like, really stupid.
yeah,
Like, this was sweet, it just had a typo in it.
yeah,
Right.
And, like, obviously permanently tatted on his back.
yeah. Oops.
Oh, man. Oops!
Yeah, literally.
Alright, so first call.
Yeah,
Boyfriend not moving. I was not expecting what
Yeah.
came with this
No, I
call.
wasn't
Same.
either. I was wondering how the Judd, because I remember seeing that Judd had a difficult conversation with Grace or was going to have one. And I was like,
Yeah, I saw
how does-
something about that.
what? What's going on?
Yeah, same.
I was like, oh no.
And then
do not make this more baby drama was actually my
I know,
thing.
right?
And I don't know where I came out of it with, like
Yeah.
where I came with that from, but I'm like, oh, please don't make that.
So they're called to a hotel room where a woman's boyfriend has passed out while they're having sex, and the fire department and the paramedics from a different firehouse come and they get into the room and they go to flip the guy over. And as they flip him over, Judd sees who the guy is, so he kind of like freezes and then like steps away real quick. And the paramedics are talking about trying to like thinking that he's had a heart attack. And Judd's like, maybe you should check his blood sugar. And
Paul's face is like, huh?
Yeah, so Paul's like,
what?
Yeah, like is he doing my thing?
Yeah.
How do you know? How do you know?
That's literally my thought process.
And that's usually one of my go-tos because my mom was a diabetic my whole life. So I grew up with, she always had issues with her blood sugar at times. So I know what it was like when, they like blood sugar, when it gets low, you start getting sweaty and yucky and
Yeah.
Actually, during this entire scene, I'm going to say it so I don't forget to say it later. I am TK in extremely one verse. Yeah. That is unfortunate. This entire scene, that is unfortunate.
Yeah.
Oh, man. Alright, so he was right, obviously, because he knew the guy.
Yeah.
It was hyperglycemia.
Yeah.
And Paul is still so confused.
My favorite part is like when they're outside and Paul's like, hypoglycemic shock, and you called it from across the room. What are you, Dr. House? And I was just like, they literally went there. They do it. Because like Lisa Edelstein, who plays Gwen, she was on House MD, and she was like the dean of medicine and stuff. And I was like, yeah, they did that. I love that because my parents love that show. I love that show.
I actually never heard of it before now. So,
it's pretty good.
Yeah, it was a funny show. I didn't watch the whole series, but I definitely watched the first few seasons of it.
Yeah, I liked like the later ones, but it was good stuff.
And so Judd's trying to pass it off as, it was just a lucky guess, and Paul's not buying it.
Oh yeah,
he's like, nuh-uh, and he's finally like, you know him, don't you? He's like, I thought I did. And that's what starts cluing you in there. If you didn't start, like, getting it before. And he's like, that's your father-in-law, isn't it? I'm like, ouch. And he's like, yeah, that's Grace's daddy. And I'm like, oh, no. No. So that entire exchange, I wanted to hug Judd because I'm like, baby.
Well, yeah, and we don't, because we don't know much about his relationship with him. We learn more, obviously, now through this. We know, and like Grace's Epsiode. Yeah, Grace's dad never really gave him, an easy time.
Yeah, it didn't sound like he liked him very much.
Yeah,
didn't want them to marry and stuff. Which I don't remember what it was, but we got somewhat of a timeline for their relationship, and so obviously there's been some time to get used to the idea. But it never sounded like the smoothest thing.
Yeah, and like basically like it was kind of like Paul was like, oh, so you know him and stuff, and like
I think he just started immediately guessing like, oh,
well, yeah,
this is where that's going.
Yeah. And he's like, I thought I did.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh. Yeah. And like basically saying that's Grace's dad, and I'm like, okay, well that.
Did anyone guess that before they said it was Grace's dad?
No. When Judd hesitated,
I kind of...
When Judd hesitated, that, like, when he first flipped him over, I was like, okay, I figured he was related to Grace, but I didn't think it was her dad.
Oh, no, I didn't.
Okay, we want to be, like, honest, and hopefully this is funny, because they showed the guy when they first flipped him over for such a short second, I thought he was dead.
Oh, I mean, that's not funny.
And I'm like, I mean, part of it was like, I don't know, I think just the lighting in that, like, made his coloring look weird. But I was like, oh, he's dead. Then I'm like, wait, no, he's not dead. No, he's not dead. Okay, bye!
Yeah, no, I didn't even, like, guess a relation or anything. I was just like, he's a guy. Like, who cares?
I was like, I figured there'd be some connection. Like, this isn't going to be done.
Well, yeah.
But I didn't think it was going to be that.
Yeah. Like, they always seem to like bring on connections. So like I should have suspected something, but I wasn't really thinking about it and stuff.
Yeah. And so we go to the hospital, and Judd shows up, and he is quite obviously pissed, but he's also conflicted. And at that point, I'm like, yeah, no shit. Because how do you tell that to anybody?
Yeah.
Like, especially your wife, who obviously loves her dad.
Well, and then when the dad woke up, he's all talking about it was God's, divine intervention that, he sent my son-in-law to rescue me. And I'm like, no, this is just your dumb mistake.
I just started cringing. I'm like,
shut up, dude. Like,
yeah, I was like, shut up. Oh, man.
Like, he wanted Judd to keep his secret. Like, no.
He wanted to. I think part of that.
Yeah, I think that was too. I think he was trying to guilt him in and saying all this good stuff about Judd to keep him quiet. And Judd was like, He's like,
Oh,
no.
fuck no. That's what.
Granted, he had to struggle himself with figuring out how he was going to tell his wife.
Yeah.
But you always knew he was going to tell her. Because, like, that's not something he could have kept. And he tried once even. And we see this later. And he he lost his nerve.
Right.
And, like, yes, that is understandable. Like, I can't fault him for anything during this. Because, like, not his fault.
Well, and he, hard. If there's a difficult decision, I mean, you want to maybe talk to some friends. So he talked to Tommy and her husband. Kind of got their advice on how he should do it or what he should do. And
low-key, I wanted to have Grace overhear him saying that just so he would be spared the pain. Though I feel like overhearing it probably in like the worst way.
But then still, later we learn how she really does find out. And that's probably just as hard. And then, Grace and her mom show up at the hospital, and they're like,
for a split second, I'm like, I thought he was going to do it. I thought he was going to fess up. And I think for a moment he thought he was going to fess up, but he completely chickened out. Was like, okay,
understandable.
That's not easy to say that you cheated. Like, okay, it's hard for somebody to say that somebody they know cheated to like the person, but imagine saying that you cheated. And it's like, okay, I can get why he didn't, but also,
like, it's not easy to, I don't even know, like, how you would say that. Like, hey, Grace, your dad is just such a filthy cheater. Like, I don't know.
And I felt so, like, okay, I felt sorry for Grace, I felt sorry for Judd. I felt sorry for the mom most. Because, like, overall, that will hit her hardest. And I'm just like, and she was, like, so sweet. I'm like, dude, how could you have ever... Also, do we want to talk about the terminology the woman who called it in used? Boyfriend? What?
Yeah.
Okay, how long was this going on? Like, she had said she didn't know him very well.
Then why is he your boyfriend? Like, if you don't know him very well.
Exactly.
Like, she acted like she just met him. And I'm like... Girl, you just said on your call that he was your boyfriend. If you don't know him, then...
I'm just like, okay, maybe it was like a few times, but it was not once.
Yeah,
I'm certain of
that.
So, this is just tough. And I mean, it was like the gal they got to play Grace's mom. I'm like, I recognized her. She was in CSI and a couple of movies I've watched. 10.5 Apocalypse was one of them. I was like, I recognize her. She's very well been in a lot of shows.
She's been in so many things I've watched. And I'm like, I always never like her character and I feel bad, but like, I'm sorry. You always just end up playing that one person we're supposed to hate.
And
then... And the gym.
Go to the gym.
Back to the gym.
The gym! Oh my gosh, I
miss the gym.
This was a good...
I miss the gym as if I go to the gym. Nope.
Oh man, I loved the scene so much. And Paul's line. Man, it's like the Telltale Heart.
Yeah.
Every time I look at it, it gets a little bigger.
Yeah.
Because they're both watching Mateo work out.
Yeah.
And his tat is on.
Because he's wearing a sleeveless shirt. And,
and
it's TK.
And TK is like, it's like this weird paintings where the eyes follow you. You've got to tell him. Me, why do
you're the one that's all about difficult conversations. Okay, not at all about.
He's like, no, not all about. I just said it's the right thing to do.
Why me?
To do the right thing. Why me? because you're the one who noticed it first. And he's like, good point.
Yeah.
Since when
Since
did
when has
anything
any-
ever notice
ever
anything
noticed
before
something
you?
For you?
That was so
You're like,
good.
all right, well, someone's got to tell him.
And then TK's
Marjan
face.
walks in.
Hey, Marshawn!
He was so
He looked
excited
so
to see
happy, like,
They're both so happy.
and then they just yell, Marshawn.
Hey,
and
Marshawn!
you see her look up
Like,
and
okay.
she's like, what?
Yeah, that gets me every time. Like, I love that scene so much. I rewatched it probably like 10 times. Just keep rewinding me like, hey, Marshawn. Oh, so good. My favorite thing was just, like the line that
Them trying to get her to notice the tattoo.
she doesn't notice.
Without her actually noticing. So she's like, oh, that looks great.
Yeah.
And they're like, okay, no, you need to look at it again.
My favorite.
You barely looked at
My
it.
favorite part was when TK was like, Marjan, you barely looked at it.
Yeah. He's like, and then she sees it and her eyes
She's
get
like, I
wide.
did it.
She turns to look at them.
And they just start laughing like, oh. I loved seeing the moment where she recognized it. Because she's like, oh my god. That was basically the
But before we get anything, we go right to downstairs where Tommy's FaceTiming with her daughters. And Owen's overhearing.
Yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, same.
So after she gets off FaceTime, he's talking to her, and he basically tells her that Gwen's pregnant, and because he's asking her like how she did it, and they talked about.
I think at this point we learned that she's older than she looks.
Yeah.
Because I would have put her at 30s, but they were talking about like her getting close to like her time.
Yeah.
So
I'm like, oh.
I think she seemed like she was like after like early 40s when she had her daughters. Kind of the vibe I got.
No, because she said.
So she and Owen are actually really close in age.
I think she could be like 45 at least.
Yeah.
Because she said it was like 40 when like she didn't have them quite yet. It seemed like the way she was talking.
So she would probably be around 48 now because her twins are 8 years old.
Yeah. Actually, that's that's spot on. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the Owen's like scene about TK being brought by the firehouse.
Yeah.
I'm like, aw.
Yeah, sliding up the fire pole all day long. Love that.
I'm like, yes, he was a firefighter at heart, even from a kid. Like, you know that.
Why can't we have pictures of that sliding up and down the pole? Ronan.
I guess because they're using real photos of Ronan, which I love that we learned that was him.
Yeah.
And that's like, okay, so the stuff in episode 2 of last season was probably him too. Like him in the firefighter outfit. I'm like,
it has to be. Yeah.
Oh my gosh,
So then after this, we get the second call.
He was the most adorable kid.
So we get to the next call where the dad and daughter are traveling on the highway, and they're in Austin. And this truck carrying some steel beams is stopped, but they don't see it, and they slam into it, which knocks a bunch of the beams into the car, and they're crushed. And you can definitely see when like they're on the call that the beams are separating the dad and the daughter, so she can't see the dad and vice versa.
At first you think the daughter's worst off because she has them pressing against her chest.
Right.
And as far as we can see, like, the guy's only jammed into the steering wheel. But then we find out that the guy actually, he doesn't even know it. He had a beam go into his belly.
Yeah.
And because he doesn't feel anything, likely his spine.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
It probably crushed him straight through. And that's like, oh, man.
Yeah. I totally called that.
I knew this was going to happen. Yes. I knew it was going to be the dad. I don't know if I said I knew it was going to be, but like
I figured it was going to be the dad. And I think what was hard for me was like there's always that question of, do you want to see your daughter, like, because they asked, well, do you want us to bring your daughter over, and he's like, no, I don't want her to see me like this. And I think that's always
honestly that would
be hard, but
I
don't know, like telling a first responder, tell my daughter this, and he like talks about it, and then like Owen has to go over to her and tell her all this stuff. I was just like, I remember when my mom passed away, it was seeing her laying there after they'd stopped working on her was just like the hardest thing. So I'm like glad she didn't have to go through that. But I think
and she was young.
she was like 18 or 19.
She was 19.
Yeah, and she had basically dropped out of school and was gonna, or hadn't decided to go to school, and she was gonna try to pursue her singing career. And so her dad was trying to told Owen to tell her she needs to sing. And I don't know, it was just, so there was a difficult conversation there, kind of to go back to the episode.
It was so heartbreaking because he was such a sweet dad,
supportive, supportive dad.
Saw him, and like you could tell he really loves his daughter, and it's like, no, it's always those guys.
Yeah, it's always it always happens. I'm just like, oh, so sad.
And then we get the Marjan.
It's another difficult conversation. Yeah. This was hard too, and I really felt bad for Mateo because he didn't realize
it broke my heart.
Because obviously this makes him just go, "Oh, I'm stupid."
Yeah.
And it's like, no, you're not stupid.
Right.
But of course he's going to think that.
Yeah, it's it's so easy because he said in episode 1, people always called him stupid. So if people always call you stupid, you're gonna think you're stupid.
Yeah, because Owen was like, "You're not stupid," and he's like,
"Yeah,
I'm not."
Yeah,
and it's like, baby.
Yeah. And the one line that really got me was just when he was like, "Yeah, and what about TK and Paul? They must be having a laugh too." And Marston's like, "No, they're not." He's like, "Then why didn't they say anything?" Because they love you. They didn't want to look at the face I'm looking at right now. I'm like, oh,
right,
no.
Yeah.
It's true though, because they wanted to tell him, but they couldn't.
Figure out how to tell him, and they're just.
And honestly, the one that probably can take care of this most, because Marjan worked with him so much, as far as that, is her. Yeah. So it really boiled down.
She's got a different bond. I mean, they all have a bond because they're fire family, but I definitely feel like she and Mateo have bonded a little deeper.
Yeah.
I see it as a brother-sister relationship. And I just see her being the protective big sis, even though I don't actually think they're that far apart in age. He just seems so much younger.
Mateo just leans on her a lot more. That's how I see their
look how he freaked out in the last episode when he thought that she was going to be going away back to Miami.
That was
oh my gosh,
he would die without her. I would die without her. Come on.
Yeah, I think we all would.
Exactly. Totally.
But I love how she's like, I know how we're going to fix this. It's going to hurt.
It's going to sting.
But I love that. I love that she was able to help him out. And then after that, we get back to Owen, and we're at the Strand's house, and Owen's going through actual physical pictures of TK, which we did get confirmation from Ronan the other day that it for sure is him, which is awesome.
I can confirm,
Yes. He's like, I can confirm, and it was so cool.
And honestly, the slightly older pic, him grinning so widely and stuff,
it's obviously him.
I'm like, yes, dead ringer if it wasn't him, but it is him, and I love that.
That'd be creepy if it wasn't him, because he just looks so distinct.
Yeah.
And then
and so they decide to do a termination, and I got so mad. Honestly, the episode kept feeling like it was ending, even though
you got that vibe too.
It was still halfway through.
Every time they have a conversation, and I guess that's the thing, the difficult conversation, and then that's usually the end of the show. So I felt that. I felt
Yeah, I think this was something they just kept building on top of, but there wasn't necessarily blending of the layers as much as there is in a lot of episodes. And I'm thinking of cake right now, so this is me doing my whole. Yeah, the filling was a little patchy there. But I was so mad. But then I looked at how much time there was left on the episode. I'm like, oh, they're going to decide against it.
Yeah,
because I'm like, okay. I didn't want them to take that route.
And for me, I've always said, I'm against abortion in the way of to do it to just do it.
Yeah, that's how.
But if the mother or the baby is in physical risk to carry it to term,
in the way that
there's a
me, I'm like, I dislike it
Right.
mostly for the baby. Like, excuse me, dude, you don't have to say anything. But give them a say on something. But I'm just kind of like, you know, I can't control the world. I'm just going to extend some grace. No pun intended. But like, I'm especially like, forgiving is the wrong word, but I guess understanding if it's a child that's product of rape.
Yeah, same.
I agree.
Or something's going to be like the mother's going to die, or the baby's likely to die, or something. It's like, okay, I can understand that slightly more, but I still
I didn't either. And you're right, Grace. I've kind of always said that too. Like, if it's a product of rape, or there's a major medical complication for the baby or the mother, you know, that's a decision that has to be made. But, you know,
because honestly, just looking at, I've watched so many other shows, and I know the statistics of like how many current day countries, but also countries that now allow it that didn't. How many of the moms died? How many of the moms committed suicide? How many? All the statistics, and I'm like, you know what? I still may hate it, but if we're avoiding those other statistics, there might be some validity to it. That's kind of what I'm
a friend who
saying.
I used to work with her, and she was telling me a story about her past, and that it was she'd gotten pregnant and was going to go into the clinic to have the abortion, and walked in and saw all the women there to do the same thing, and she walked right out and didn't have it done. And she had the baby, and 2 years later she got into a severe car accident, and she had to have her entire basically had to have an entire hysterectomy because that was what was damaged in the accident. And she said, had I and she wasn't seeing anybody at the time, so had she had the abortion, she never would have had a son. So I just think how powerful that is, that she chose not to do that.
You know, things eventually turn out all right. But
and I think there are so many couples in this world that want to be parents but can't, whether it's a financial thing, it's they just can't get pregnant. They're same-sex couples, they can't get pregnant, you know. So there are options.
Honestly, the only thing with that is the state of the foster system.
It's terrible.
Like, it is such a horrible state. Foster kids will get, like, fostered out only because the people want the money that the state will give them, and they're treated horribly. And so it's like, I don't know, it's a whole mess where no one path will turn out perfect. Or right for everyone. So I'm just like, you know what? I will make decisions based on my body and what I want. I will not make decisions for anybody else.
Anyways, speaking of other difficult decisions, we go to Tommy and Charles' place, and Grace and Judd are there for dinner. And
I love this power. Yeah,
this is a good scene.
Thing.
And it was a tough scene.
Yeah, I love this.
You know, because after Grace takes the girls, you know, and they kind of, I love how they kind of joked about Grace, like, well, I might, you know, have to take them home, and, or what is it? Tommy said something about you could take one of them. Yeah. And Grace, like, I might have to take both of them.
And she's like,
no, she's like,
I take one, I'll take both.
Or something like, yeah, exactly. Like, she's like, T, if I'm going to take one, I'm taking both. And I'm like, oh. And Grace is like, Judd, tell them. And I'm like, she wants a baby so bad. And he's just putting
Grace would be an amazing mom.
He's either so oblivious or like, what is going on, boy?
I feel like he feels like maybe he doesn't, like, I'm not going to say he doesn't want kids because I don't think that. But like, maybe he just isn't, like, boy, it's time. Come on now. You're only getting older.
I think he's just kind of cooling his heels.
And then,
so it's
and as soon as she's out of the room, Tommy's like, okay, what the heck's going on? Because she realizes something's going on with Judd.
I think he had like some weird, like said something kind of weird before.
It was,
I don't remember what it was, but there was something that's kind of clues you in.
It was
like,
it's just milk and ice cream, about the milkshake.
It was that, because Tommy's husband said that, like, isn't that like an Asian bistro or something along the lines of that?
Because her dad was supposedly in the restaurant at that hotel, getting a milkshake. Yeah.
And he was just like, it's just milk and ice cream.
Can't be that hard.
And like, it's like, ugh. And like, Grace is obviously figuring something is going on, but she's not thinking too much of it, I think. But like Tommy and Charles, they're like, okay, what's going on? And he tells them, and I'm glad he doesn't beat around the bush with this. Because he needed some advice. And I love how Tommy's like, do I want to hear where this is going? And he's like, I think you know exactly where the road leads. And I'm like, yeah, don't beat around it here. We all know what that means. If you're upstairs in a hotel for something, there are very few other options.
Yeah.
Let's just say that. Especially with a friend that's not your
The
wife.
whole thing with this whole scene was like, at one point Judd mentioned how his dad had stepped down on his mom, and that really confused me because I was like not expecting that line, and I was so confused. I was like, so I like always assumed his mom died, and I think she did.
She did,
but
because
she did because it was clear. But also, then I thought about it more. I'm like, well, just because he stepped out on her doesn't mean that, like, they got a divorce or, like, the things ended.
It sounded like they had still been together at the end. And I don't know if Judd even said his mom knew. Maybe Judd knew and his mom didn't.
Yeah.
Honestly, though, this actually made perfect sense to me. Because maybe that's what made him a bit more troublesome as a kid and put him in one of those at-risk camps. Like, that just made perfect sense to me. I don't know if it's necessarily making perfect sense to everybody else, but it makes perfect sense to me.
And then, like, immediately after, Judd visits Grace, assuming it was, like, the next day at work. Yeah. Will obviously be the next day. And, like, he's acting so, like, quiet, but also so weird that I'm just like, oh, boy, come on. And, like, she's just like, what, you drove 45 minutes to visit me at work? Like, what's going on? Yeah. And, like, then there's that one point where you think he's going to tell her. Right. He's like, hey, I need to tell you something. She's like, wait.
Yeah.
And somebody walked in the room. Like, you could tell that was it. I'm like, and he's just kind of like, I can't do it.
He's just like, oh, nothing. I just love you. And I'm just like...
And you can tell that she's like, she doesn't buy it fully, but she kind of... Oh, man, I'm making so many puns with my own damn name. She extends a little grace to it.
Don't you love that?
Oh, man, this is so confusing talking about somebody who has my same name, but then making puns with my name and hers on both of our behalves.
To the point
where... I tell you what, going to church when I was younger was an adventure. I don't think someone was calling me.
And then we also learned that I guess Judd was going, since it's like a couple of days off for him, he's going to help his Uncle Cash. And so he kind of plays it off as like, oh, I just really love you and I'm going to miss you or something like that. So it was kind of a way of trying to explain, but then like backtracking. And yeah, I feel bad for Judd, and he was definitely trying to tell her, but I'm glad, even though he tried to tell her, I'm kind of glad she figured it out on her own, because Grace is smart. She can figure things out.
Oh, she is. Honestly, I think she needed to do it to, like, first of all, I don't know if she necessarily would have resented her husband, but hearing it from her husband would have been hard. And then, like, at the same time, where am I going with this? I have a train of thought I'm going with this. But I think she needed to put the pieces together on her own to make it sink in. Because if anyone else
if anybody else had said anything to her, she wouldn't have believed it. That, oh, you're just misunderstanding it. They were having, so just the typical things you hear when somebody's, trying to hide it or doesn't understand or doesn't believe that could happen. So I think
I think she needed to be in private for that. And obviously she was at work, but she was in a cubicle. I think she needed to be alone, and like somebody else being there would have made things worse. So obviously if someone else had told her, like, the way some decent person should, like in person, instead of over like a phone or like a call or text or something, there's no doing it that way. It's like she just needed that time, I think.
So then Judd leaves and she's back on the floor and she gets a call. A woman is trying to order a pizza.
And immediately the moment I heard that, I was like, that's it. Because it's well known that people can call 911 and pretend to be ordering a pizza so that they can answer the questions without answering the questions, give the address, and get people on the way there. And I'm like, thank you for doing this.
And, like, it's also, like, a common thing that, like, a lot of bars will have, like, in the women's bathroom, they'll have the name of a drink that you can order if you need police if a date went bad. And, like, my whole thing with this call before we actually talk about it is that I feel like, because they mentioned that, like, Carlos and Grace were working together, that, like, it was kind of overhyped by the fans, because I saw it and I was like, wait, this was it? They didn't work together. Like, yes, Grace dispatched Carlos there, but, like, it wasn't really, they didn't have a conversation with, besides, like, Carlos just being, like, suspect in custody and being, like, en route and stuff like that, but, like, they didn't really work together. It wasn't like they were working a case together, so I was just like, oh, okay.
Honestly, I was expecting there to be, like, a little bit more, like, her giving him some directions to get in there or something like that. Not the dispatch. I'm like, oh, come on, that's just, like, false advertising, so to speak. Like, I enjoyed, like, seeing our boy there.
I only cared about Carlos when he was the one arresting the guy. I was like, that's right, Poppy, Officer Poppy. I literally said that.
Yes. But I was like, yes, it was overhyped by fans. It was false advertising by the active Lone Star. But I think people got a little too mad about it.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, okay, we still got Carlos, though.
I personally wasn't mad about it, because I was just like, but it was like, oh, this is all it was.
Yeah, and it's like, yeah. But, no, I'm like, just let it go, though I would like to see them working together at some point. Like, it wasn't such a drastic thing that we need to be upset by it. That's my opinion.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I mean, I think for me it was a tough situation. Tough, and there's a lot of moving parts in that, you know, and cops don't always get all the details right away.
Yeah.
So, Grace was, you know, kind of informing them of what's going on. And
at least they knew the suspect was armed. And that was one of the vital things. Because that was one of the things that she was able to answer with the yes or no question, which there are plenty of yes or no questions in ordering any sort of, like, food.
Yeah, it doesn't have to be just pizza, but it's good for people to know, and I'm glad they use this as a storyline. I know for me, I felt a little bad, because I talked with my friend yesterday, and I have a friend who's been through a domestic violence relationship, and I usually warn her about calls like that, and I forgot. So I felt bad, because she's like, that was a little tough for me to handle, and I'm like, I'm so sorry, I forgot to tell you.
Yeah. I mean, at least it didn't, like it wasn't too physical, but, like...
Yeah. It was the aftermath, and that can be as hard, but I'm more glad... Well, we did see a little of him wrapping her up, because the hard thing was him finding out, honestly, that she was on. Honestly, I would be surprised if he hadn't, because she was on for so long. Yeah. He was being suspicious, and I'm like, well, he's not completely stupid.
Yeah.
And through this, you know, Grace has got this whole, like, plan put together that, you know, the fire department's going to come and deploy a rescue cushion underneath the apartment window.
Was that Carlos who came up with the rescue cushion idea?
No, it was probably the fire department.
It's fire department.
Just because, and, like, that made so much sense, like, because in the promo they showed, like, somebody jumping out a window, and I was like, oh, okay, so this is the same call. I never would have pictured that.
Yeah, the moment I heard something about rescue cushion, I was like, huh, but then when we had it, I'm like, okay, that makes a lot of sense, because I thought we were going to have a jumper in the call.
Same.
Which technically we did, but not in the sense of the word.
Yeah, I thought it was going to be a different call, though. Like, I thought there would be a call of a jumper, which I would actually like to see.
Right.
Yeah.
But this was not that.
And I'm glad it was.
Yeah.
Like, I'm glad they combined that. That was kind of cool.
And so when we see the jumping out, we're like, okay, are they jumping? And then they jump into the cushion. So it's a lot more relief, you know. And then we see the firefighters down below, or, you know, rescuing her, and so she's out of this situation before the police come in, and
Not gonna lie, for a second, before I saw the rescue cushion, I was like, oh no, she's going for the window.
Yeah.
No, don't, like, it's
Right.
not.
Well, the
But then
window, I'm like, okay, you could tell Grace was telling her. And I'm like, okay, Grace would not be telling her if there was a plan, if there wasn't a plan in place. Like,
Yeah. Well, she said to get away from the door, so.
Right.
Yeah.
And when the gal told her she couldn't.
and honestly, the thing that clued me in to, like, Grace telling her, it was the woman's eyes, like, going towards the window. And I'm like, okay, not coincidence, that's at the same timing. The girl knows she's being told something. I don't know what she's being told, but I'm interested to see.
Right.
Yeah.
I kind of expected the rescue cushion, but I was also kind of surprised.
Same.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then, so.
Then we move on to the after part. Just before we leave that one thing, badass Poppy, like,
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
yes. That's what I said.
I will
I was
always
like,
be
"Ooh."
there for, like, Carlos working. Like, come on.
Yes. Please. So, quickly, because I don't know, we have so many more things to do. Not so many more, but a few more things.
Yeah, I need to get off soon. But I can push it back a tiny bit, but let's try and make this fast.
Yeah. So, basically, like, Grace gets off the call and, like, her boss was just kind of like, another operator would have hung up on her, but not you. And Grace is like, sometimes it's not what they say, it's what they don't say. And I was like, okay.
And you can tell she's thinking of Judd in this moment, because she knew he wasn't saying something.
Yeah, and then we get the montage of, like, the last couple of comments and scenes of him, and then she just starts typing and pulls up the call from her dad's.
I was like, how? But also she does this every day, so it's just like she can like do this, but also it's like kind of like okay, but yeah, and I was just like, oof, like kind of like hard to find out about that, like, in a way, but also like I guess it's better she found out for herself.
Yeah.
But yeah,
and then she invites her mom.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
And this is the thing, and I think this is why she was most able to extend, again, some grace towards Judd, is because she couldn't bring herself to tell her mom.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
She couldn't.
Yeah.
She
was going to tell her mom.
And you just see last minute, she just can't.
Oh my god.
And I'm like, oh man.
Yeah.
Damn. And honestly, I want to have more on that. Like, I want to see, like, her mom finding out at some point, whether being told or finding out on her own.
Yeah, I don't think this storyline is closed for sure.
I don't think so, no.
I don't think it's gonna come up, like, directly next episode, but I think it's definitely gonna come up at some point.
Yeah.
Because, if anything, Grace and Judd are gonna have to have a conversation about him not wanting to tell her.
The whole thing
taking
ended
so long
on them, like, having this, like, conversation in bed, but nothing's resolved. They're both a little tense at the moment.
Yeah.
And then we get Owen and Gwen getting ready to, I guess, go to her appointment. And they kind of are back and forth. And like, Owen saying, we can go do this and we can go get this food. And she's like, I don't want this food. I want this baby.
They start fighting.
About food.
But then they start screaming at each other, and that's when she did. And then Owen replies like, so do I! And that's when, like, there's just silence, and they're like, huh?
Yeah. The whole sushi thing was hilarious. Stop.
Yeah, she's like, she doesn't trust Texas sushi.
That was Owen.
But I don't know. I'm glad they just chose not to do the abortion.
I think that would have offset the storyline too weirdly, just without anything else in there. I feel like that just would have changed a lot of things and made just these things awkward. And it's like, no.
Medically, it would have made sense in a sense, but also it wouldn't have. But, like, because, like, the risks are high, but, like, I don't know, like, it's just, like, it's kind of tricky, and I don't really want to put my head on that ever.
They need to tell TK, though.
Yeah, that's my thing. TK's got to find out, and they can't just keep hiding it from him. They
act like he's still 6.
Well, I understand
26.
it. I understand it. That's their baby.
Right.
And like a lot of people, if it's high risk, they're not going to tell people for at least minimum 12 weeks.
Right.
They need to tell him though,
Yeah.
like, because he's their kid, and he's going to know if
And
something
he needs
happens
time
to the
to
baby.
Process something.
Yeah. He needs to know, because if they lose the baby, there's going to be an obvious shift.
Yeah.
And he cannot be left on the sidelines, having no idea what's going on.
Right.
And also, like, this isn't even just a half-brother. This is his... Or, not brother. We don't know whether or not it's going to be a boy or a girl, but this is not just a half-sibling. This is, like, literal sibling. That's, like, going to be 26 years younger than him, but still a sibling.
Yeah.
He deserves to know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Even though I'm dying to know how he reacts. Because I think the next episode we're supposed to have, like, a fight between him and Owen. I'm betting it's that.
Oh, yeah. Some tension for sure.
Yeah. Like, people are making it seem like it's going to be, like, a major, like, oh, you're having a baby, blah, 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 blah. Like, it's not going to be that big of a deal. Like, people are making it more of a big deal than it's going to be. And I'm just like, no, it's not. It's not.
It's like, I don't think any of that's gonna happen, like...
Because he's an adult. Like, yes, it's a little weird that your dad's having a kid, but, like, he's an adult. He's not, like, a little kid.
He'll get used to it.
Yeah. He wouldn't even have to get used to it, in a sense. Like, yes, there'd be somebody else around, but, like...
But I feel like there's some things that TK is going to need to address with his parents about that, though. Because I can understand, like... Okay, so they're obviously unsure of telling him, obviously, because for a while, at least in this episode, they didn't know if they were even going to keep the baby.
Yeah.
But now that they've decided to keep the baby, they need to tell TK. Because, and if I was TK, because I'm an only child, and if my parents came to me when I was 25 years old and said they're pregnant, I would have been like, okay, so you're replacing me? So I would have, that's how I would have felt.
Yes.
So, honestly, I feel like TK needs to have that moment of like, so what? I'm, have some issues and you want to replace me? That's kind of how he might feel. And so I
saw one where he was like, oh, they're going to screw up. Like, I saw a fanfic where he's like, oh, they're going to screw up another kid. Yeah. And I'm like, honestly, he's not wrong.
Yeah. No, he's not.
He's not a screw up, but like, he's got his issues.
He's got his issues, and I feel bad for TK. I feel like he does, and I feel like he deserves to know. Like, of all the people, like Tommy should not have been the one told. He should have been the first one to be told, because it's his parents, it's his blood. It's not just a friend from work, and or Zoe.
Yeah, or in Owen, but in Owen's defense, he wasn't trying to tell her. Like, she kind of just figured it out,
right,
and stuff. Like, and he wasn't being mostly subtle.
Honestly,
about
I feel like it was a good thing that somebody else know. And if it was going to be anybody else, I'm glad it was Tommy.
Yeah,
same.
But they can't tell anybody.
Yeah,
like at this point, because it's like, okay, he needed a little bit of like a peer mind. Like, extra mind that TK couldn't have given him.
Yeah, this is kind of like season 1 when he told Judd before he told TK about his cancer.
Yeah. Which, like, okay.
I can get that. I just hope that we get some resolution and that TK has a chance to voice how he really feels about it. That's all.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so next thing. I'm sorry, I'm speeding this. Next conversation. Which is Carlos's place, and Paul and TK come in. Later, Marjan and Mateo come in. And, just base it from there. And Mateo got his tattoo fixed.
Because Marjan had a deep conversation with the guys at the shop.
I'm just picturing her, like, cool, calm, badass, threatening them.
Yes.
And making them ashamed of, like, laughing at someone for a disability.
Yeah.
I'm like, like, good girl.
Yeah, like, they only cared about their money because they're like, oh, like, that's just like, oh, that's like his, like, yes, he did say that, like, yes, this is definitely what I want, but, like...
But they needed to check.
They should have been like, are you sure this is how you spell this?
Right.
Like, like, oh, that bothers me.
Maybe even just read it out loud discreetly so that, like...
Be like, is this supposed to be this word?
Yeah.
Yeah. Just be like, so you want this with a guardian angle?
Right.
Okay,
Or like
they
basically
really,
shout angle.
yeah. So I think Brian released that scene on like a little snippet of him being like guardian angle, and I did not get it.
Yeah.
Like, obviously nobody got it because we didn't know like the context. But
Right.
Oh yeah, it wasn't it the part of man, it's just really hard to hurt someone with the face of an angle.
yes.
And I just start cackling at that one.
Yeah.
Okay. And Mateo's
Yeah.
like, too soon. I'm like,
Yeah,
fair
that
enough,
was
but
so
still
funny. And like the whole like Marjan being like, when Teo's like, Marjan had a conversation with him, and Carlos's response was perfect. Must have been some conversation because that's a lot of ink.
Yeah, and I love her response. It's amazing what a little direct talk can do, huh? And she's glaring at TK and Paul. I'm glad that TK and Paul apologized because like they are sorry, but they just didn't want to. And then that's where Paul's line of didn't want to hurt the feelings of someone with the face of an angle.
I'm like, okay, well played.
And then while there's the ointment and moist jokes being passed around, I loved how like Marjan and Carlos were laughing, and Carlos looked like he was gonna spit his drink.
Yeah.
And I was like, I wonder if that was Carlos or how much of that was Rafa.
Mm-hmm.
It was like it could have been a different take.
Yeah, I would honestly be the same way. So honestly,
Yep, me too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Then
love that though.
Yeah.
Then Judd and Grace.
Yeah, Judd and Grace. Judd comes home and stuff. And like Grace is sleeping because it's like night-ish. Night-ish.
I don't really think she was asleep though.
No, I
don't
think
either.
She was awake.
She was,
but she was in bed.
She was asleep. But like I don't know, this whole thing. It was just like, are you awake? It's like, yeah, I am now. And Grace, he's just like, Grace, I gotta tell you something. I think it's gonna make you mad, but I want you to not really, really consider that who you are angry with. It's like,
I'm like scared of
I don't want you to be
him.
Yeah. I don't want you to be mad at me, so don't be mad at me, basically.
Yeah, it's like, don't shoot the messenger.
Yeah. And she's like, Judd, if you're going to tell me that my father isn't the man I thought he was, or that you kept this from me because you love me and you didn't want to see me hurt, I will say I understand and I appreciate it. Beyond that, I don't want to talk about that. So
I'm like, girl, honestly, that's like the best way she could have handled that.
Yeah.
Me.
And I think part of it came from like her saying, "I understand," because she just went through that with her mom.
Yeah.
She couldn't say it.
Yeah. And like, I don't see, like, obviously, like, I don't see her being the one to be so enraged. Like, yes, she's mad, but, like, I don't think she'd be mad at him because, like, he was put in a terrible position and without even knowing everything, I'm sure she realizes that because she knows that he was there. So she knows that he must have been in the most awkward position he would ever want to be in. And stuff, and like Judd could have so much over him now because like her dad didn't really like him, but now he has like so much like, hey, and I think even great like there was points where Grace, like, she didn't say it in this sense, in a different sense, but I'm just like, okay.
And that's the last scene of the episode, isn't it?
Yeah.
That was an abrupt ending for me. Yeah. And I'm like, wow.
Definitely feel like we got more to come, like, next episode.
Yes. So much.
Because we've only really gotten one little clip of, like, a preview, too, so.
Yeah, I like that, though, because, like, it doesn't really give you that much and stuff, but I really like this episode. Like, I think this is my favorite themed episode, like difficult conversations, how it went off on everyone, like Owen and Gwen, Grace and Judd, Mateo's tattoo situation, Paul and TK being babies about talking, like,
and the calls,
the calls,
so good,
And and I liked how the tattoo was played out. I liked the little things. And Carlos just, being a Officer Poppy, I love that.
Yeah.
Honestly, this episode for me was like a 9 out of 10. with like the 1 point deducted because of like some of the weird stuff between Owen and Gwen. But
Yeah, ooh.
honestly, the rest of it, I'm like, okay, on point.
Yeah, I agree with this. A lot of fans have said like Gwen was brought in to be there for TK after he was shot, and she's only been there for Owen, and I'm like, oof, that is so true.
That's a good point.
Though.
Like, I don't like that. Like, okay, she's had more scenes with like Owen than she has with TK. Like, aren't you there to be with your son?
There have been no individual scenes.
Yes.
It's true.
And everything has been focused far more. Like, the one I can see being more focused on him was the one where they were giving a pep talk to TK that revolved around them.
Yeah.
Because she was kind of like, oh, baby, what's going on? And I'm like, okay, what?
I don't like it. Like, why? But yeah.
Now, it was good episode. So much to come. Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and like people's reactions to this episode, I'm just gonna go right there. But everyone's like, I have 2 bones to pick. 1, Carlos Berry's screen time. 2, Gwen. And I'm like, just the 2 Gwen. I love that because, like, literally me, I'm at the point where I'm tested, where I'm just like, I'm trying to figure out how you're gonna leave. I have a feeling you're going to leave. I'm certain on it. But like, I can't stand like the whole like back and forth, and I'm just like, please.
Honestly, this will be a thing where like it'll end however it's going to end, and then I'll look back and be like, okay, that makes a little bit more sense. Like we called that kind of thing. Until like it ends though, or we know what's going to happen, it's just kind of like, what the hell are they doing?
Yeah, and then people being like, I really miss TK and Owen's relationship from season 1. I can't describe how much I want it back, and I'm like, me, I want it back so bad. Like, I think we're gonna get a lot next episode, or at least I hope we will get more than just.
Some of it sounds negative though, because they're supposed to have an argument.
Yeah. I'm
betting about the baby, but I haven't something else.
I haven't registered that into my brain, so there's that. But yeah, the promo is like legit nothing. It's literally like 2 brothers trapped in a minefield. I'm like, how did you get to said minefield? But okay. And then I want to almost guarantee they like snuck in, like climbed a fence or climbed down there.
We just get the minefield, and so there's like all these questions of how they got there, and then Owen and TK go in.
Yeah, so like
was it Owen or TK that was
both.
Taking the bag and then like throwing it?
Oh wait, I feel like I don't remember that part, but I feel like it might have been like Tommy. I don't know why I think that.
Well, no, I think it was TK, because I think Ronan posted the picture of him with the duffel bag throwing it like a few feet away and then like seeing it explode.
Oh, maybe. I don't know, because they're both like standing at the same point, but maybe not. I don't know.
I don't know. It's gonna be interesting, that's for sure.
Yeah, definitely.
And that's literally the promo. Like, that's all we got.
So boring.
Yeah, it makes me like, oh my gosh, what in the world is going to be in the episode?
Yeah. I'm like curious what they will like drop the day of like what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Like nothing too extreme, but
yeah. Well, thank you so much for listening and joining us. Be sure to subscribe to the podcast on Anchor. We are also on Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts, and almost anywhere podcasts can be found. On iTunes, please rate us and leave us a review. It would mean a lot to us. You guys can follow the podcast on our socials at 911LS Roundup on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
You can follow me, Katie, at For Love of Tarlos on Instagram, at For Love of Tarlos on Twitter.
You can follow me, EJ, at EJ8302. on Instagram and Twitter, and Grace had to step out, but you can follow Grace at RonanRafa911 on Instagram and SheepGirl31 on Twitter. We'll see you next time.
Bye.
Bye.